Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Dorrani from VG247, and I'm joined by Tom and Alex. Say hello, boys.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So, Nintendo have just done their showcase, their show. What do we all think? It was a short one, but loads of variety.
It
What's
was
your first
40
impression?
minutes, man. Like, 40
40
minutes.
minutes?
Like,
Yeah.
Microsoft's was an hour and a half, I know, but like 40 minutes. Square Enix's was 40 minutes and they showed basically jack shit. So,
Yeah.
like, you gotta. I think they came out, they weren't playing, they came out swinging, and in my opinion, I think Microsoft's showing was fine, but in my opinion, they've sort of rescued this E3.
Yeah, I agree. With one game for me in particular, and it's not even the game that you think, Nintendo. Tom, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm going to be called miserable, but I mean, I didn't get a lot out of this. Like, it opened terribly. Smash Brothers, not my thing. Then we had a load of
Mhm.
JRPGs, not my thing. We had games that we knew about.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, WarioWare is a game I enjoy a lot. Like, I like WarioWare a lot, but it's the game I'd buy and it drops to £10. And
Yeah.
then other stuff happened, and
Bro, you're
Zelda.
killing me here. You're killing me
Zelda,
here.
Zelda. To be fair, we'll get to it. Breath of the Wild 2 looks amazing, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing on that. I think that looks great. The rest of it left me feel. Oh, Metroid. I we'll talk about that as well. I've got mixed
Yeah.
views on Metroid.
Yeah. So, counter question to your misery: what would you have liked from Nintendo?
Well, I mean, it's like dream stuff, right? I mean, it's like I mean, I'm quite simple. I want new Mario Kart tracks. I want that. I
Hmm.
think why they haven't done it, I don't understand. It feels like a gimme. And I'd like to see something like like the next Mario, like Odyssey or something like that. But you can't have everything, right? I understand we can't have everything all every year. They're not going to show every single game. Um,
Well, they
but
will reveal. They will reveal the next Mario game or whatever that team's been doing, because there has been some chatter that maybe that'll be a Donkey Kong game. They will reveal that once they're done or almost done with Zelda, because Zelda and Mario always go one, then the other, one, then the other, always, even
Hmm.
though they're different teams. So I think that is surely going to be. And hey, if there's one thing Nintendo have shown today, it's that they are committed to announcing a game and releasing a game. Now, admittedly, they announced Breath of the Wild 2 a lot earlier, but like Metroid, announce it, it's out in 3 months. Advance Wars, announce it, it's out in 6 months. WarioWare, announce it, it's out. They didn't get a date, but it's out imminently. They said, or
yeah,
very very soon, basically. Um,
Warioware does have a date, by the way.
does it actually have a solid date? Because I didn't hear
September
that.
10th.
Oh, there you go. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's out in like 4 months,
Yeah.
and this is what I mean. They don't mess about with this stuff. It's not like you get a trailer for a new Avalanche game and it's probably going to be out in 2026. Thanks, Microsoft.
yeah, that is
Like,
good. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yes.
I agree. Like the way the game. I like the focus on games this year mostly, apart from obviously the big one, which isn't, and Rabbids is next year as well. But I mean, I feel like I'm just out of touch with some of this stuff. Like Advance Wars, I saw my Twitter feed going off. Like everyone was like, "Can't believe it, Advance Wars! Wow!" I think I might be
so
the only person not to enjoy Advance Wars.
So here's the thing: that's a beloved series from the GBA and the DS, right? But the thing is fans had become convinced there was not going to be another Advance Wars because Fire Emblem got massive, and they're made by the same company, and it was like Intelligent Systems is now going to be in the Fire Emblem mind forever, because an Advance Wars might sell a couple of million copies, but they could do a Fire Emblem that might sell 8 or 9 million copies, and so just to see Nintendo say to them, you know what, take the time, bring that back. We'll give you development help on Fire Emblem in the last Fire Emblem Tecmo Koei helped out with. I just think it's a big deal because it's a series coming back that hasn't been around for the better part of 20 years, right? That's the thing. That's why people are losing their minds.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and
yeah,
they are playing it safe in that it is a remake of two games previous, but that moves the needle. Like that was the announcement out of this whole direct that I put into the WhatsApp group chat of my like mates who aren't hardcore.
Gamers.
They don't read our website, they don't watch this YouTube channel or anything like that. They're very very casual, but they remember that game, man.
Yeah.
Why are you friends
And-
with
That
them?
says a
You
lot.
shouldn't be. You shouldn't be friends with them if they're not looking at the website and the YouTube channel. But yeah, I appreciate that. Like, I understand that people are well into this, and I'm happy for all the people that are excited for all the games they announced. Advance Wars, I know. Like literally, I just saw the word Advance Wars about 15 times in a row on Twitter when it was on. It was just people just couldn't believe it. I'm very happy for those people, but I'm sadly I'm not one of the people that gets excited. Like Dorrani, you mentioned what I wanted. Bayonetta 3, like where the hell's that?
Yeah.
well,
Go on.
but this is that thing. I think Nintendo doesn't tend to. They sometimes do announce games early. I think when they're in a tight spot, and there was that one specific tight spot a year and a bit into the Switch where they announced Bayonetta 3, Breath of the Wild 2, and Metroid Prime
Metroid.
4, where
Yeah.
clearly none of them were anywhere near being done. And then Metroid got rebooted as well. And I think it's pretty safe to assume that Bayonetta's probably had some development struggles. Doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game. Loads of games have development struggles. But I assume Bayonetta, when that game resurfaces, it will resurface and it will be out within 3 or 4 months of resurfacing. And I think the same is true of Metroid Prime 4. I think next year might be a good bet to see those potentially.
So
Depends on
Oh.
COVID, right? Depends on how bad the COVID delays are.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, see, with that rule that you're saying, with they announce the game and then it's out in 3 to 4 months. Breath of the Wild, what's the Breath of the Wild 2? Sorry, because they announced that for a while, and that
I think if they knew for certain, I think they would have said first half of 2022. But I don't think they know for certain. And to be clear, I do not know. There is no insider information about the release date of this game on my part. But my read of this is that they probably would quite like it to be out in the first half of the year. But they're not going to say that because they know the original Breath of the Wild, they had to delay it like 3 times.
yeah.
And they don't want to say it and then delay it. So by saying 2022, they can either pop back up in January, because they always do a direct in January, right? They can always pop back up in Jan or Feb and say it's out in June,
Yeah.
or they can sit quiet and put it out at the end of the year.
Speculation. Sorry to cut you off. Speculation. With those 3 big games that you mentioned, so Metroid 4, Breath of the Wild 2, and Bayonetta 3.
Yeah.
Bayonetta 3.
Mhm.
Is that a hold off for the rumored Switch Pro, or
Well, that's the other question, right? That's the elephant in the room. Does this thing exist? I think it does. If it does exist, how far out is it? What's going on with it? And what are the flagship games going to be for it? Like, we can expect, I think, some third-party ones too. It's like Capcom is a company that I expect to be on board with a Switch Pro, and it's like, would that be with a Monster Hunter thing, or possibly with a Resident Evil thing, or what? Like, they've got other franchises that are left in the chamber that don't currently have games that could fit that as well. Like, you could do a Dead Rising game with loads of zombies on screen or whatever. Anyway, my point is, yeah, maybe. But let's talk about the stuff that was here, because
yeah, most definitely.
just running down it, I think, because we're short on time. Let's skip over a lot of the third party stuff and focus down on the first party. But I do just want to give a shout out to number
Super
one.
Monkey Ball. Sorry.
No, number one, they didn't. Well, yes, that, but they didn't mention it in the broadcast. But Guardians of the Galaxy is a cloud game, so that is coming over. So that is coming over the internet.
Cheeky.
Yeah, so that is coming over the air.
I thought that was it surprised me a lot, because I thought, okay, this game is so half baked. If they're gonna get it to run on Switch natively, I was like,
Yeah, so
that's panic.
So it's coming through the cloud. I'm just looking at the press release. And then we've got stuff like Worms and Tony Hawk and stuff like that. But then, the other big third-party ones, this Project Zero, a.k.a. Fatal Frame, beloved series.
Creepy
It's a horror
game.
series. It's a horror series where you don't shoot the ghosts and stuff. You've got a camera. So you do shoot them, but you shoot them with a camera. That's the gimmick, and they're good games. They're beloved. Well, some of them are better than others.
Japanese studio.
It's a Tecmo Koei joint. Although usually in the past, Nintendo has published those, and probably they'll publish in the West, and they'll probably publish this one as well. Shout out to Cruising, like that came and went, but like that's like an old Nintendo IP that that was released in arcades. The arcade company Raw Thrills had licensed it and has been putting out a couple of Cruising arcade cabinets with Nintendo's blessing, and it seems like what they're doing is packaging a bunch of that arcade content into a Switch game. So, hey, that's interesting.
You can ride a unicorn or something, was it?
Yeah. And then, yeah, the other big and new announcement, right? Super Monkey Ball. That's sick. I don't know what to
Amazing.
say.
I'm gonna say my part now. I'll be waiting for this now. After this, I'm not saying anything else. Super Monkey Ball is a beloved franchise to me personally.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that you just pick up, you just have fun in just deceptively hard sometimes. It's got an amazing soundtrack, a soundtrack that's been sampled by people for so long. Amazing game. I will be grabbing that on October 5th. It sounds like it's a sponsor, but it's not. I'm just really excited about it. I'm really excited about it. And that's enough from me.
I also just want to quickly
do you want to guess if, do you want to see? Ask if I'm excited, Dorrani, about that.
Are you excited?
I'm not. No.
Yeah, nah. What's this Debbie Downer today?
So I watched the whole thing with my son, and he literally said, "Can we buy that?" to about, I don't know, 95% of the games. So
yeah,
I mean, you've got a lot of similarities to a 7-year-old.
To be honest, do you know what? I'm not even going to argue with that. This is true. Nintendo is a family-oriented device. I'm not going to say child-oriented. It's a family-targeted device. So, Super Monkey Ball's awesome, man.
It's great. It's a great franchise, great games, and I love that they're bringing together a lot of it. That was a theme of this Direct, is games coming that are bringing together content from classic games. So you've got Advance Wars bringing together the first two Advance Wars. You've got Super Monkey Ball bringing together all that stuff, and you've got this Mario Party game, which is bringing together a load of the maps and the most beloved mini games from the older Mario Parties. So it's a bit of a theme. Yeah, it's like, because obviously they've got Super Mario Party on the Switch, which is a bit different in its own way. But this is them bringing back a bunch of the classic stuff. And for me, Mario Party sucks, right? It's terrible, and it's something you play if you hate your friends and you want them to suffer.
Wow.
However, with that said, I have some really fond memories of the N64 games with my friends, and we went on before COVID destroyed the world. We went on we rented out a big cottage, and we went on a cottage holiday, like all the lads that I went to school with and stuff, and our partners and all that. And one of the things we did one night is we all got very drunk and sat down and played Super Mario Party, and it was great. It was really memorable. And so the fact this is bringing back old maps and stuff from the games we had as children, I'm here for it. I do just want to say also, before we move on to the first party big hitters, quickly, because I'm the resident Japanese RPG nerd, SMT5, Shin Megami Tensei 5, looks great, looks ridiculously good, and I think it's really, really exciting because SMT has never been a big series, but what has happened between the last SMT game and this one is that Persona blew up and got super, super popular, and these two series are related. They're spin-offs, really, of each other. And so you can see that they're trying to draw in with some of the aspects of this game, that Persona audience, and it'll be really interesting to see if this can come out and just go on a tear and sell like 5-6 million copies like Persona did. I really hope so, because these games are typically pretty damn good. Anyway.
One sec, before you carry on that one, just for SMT 5, do SMT players know that it's a Persona 5? Persona 5 is from there? Because I didn't know. But is it
Persona? Well, so like the earlier Persona games were actually released in the West as Shin Megami Tensei : Persona 3. Shin Megami Tensei : Persona 4. It was only Persona 5 they actually, and some of the later versions of Persona 4, that in the West they started to drop the SMT name because Persona started to get bigger than SMT.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's. But if you like Persona, you're going to recognize a lot of those elements, whether that's the way skills work and the way spells work, the demons themselves. And so hopefully people like you can get SMT5 on the Switch and go, I get it now.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, so what else is there? We talked about Advance Wars. Tekken, quickly.
Tekken is my least favorite fighting game. I know Tom is probably saying the boys are off again speaking about fighting games, but
let's move on.
I'm not a huge Tekken fan, but I will just say this isn't the character that I would have picked for Smash, but it makes a lot of sense. Don't forget also that Bandai Namco actually develop Smash Brothers for Nintendo. So it's sort of like a final little. They've got one more DLC character left after this, So it's like a final gift to Namco to say, we're going to put one of your boys in the game, another one of your boys, because obviously Pac-Man's already in the game.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I look forward to it. I really hope the last DLC character is someone really special. So we will see who that ends up being.
I'm trying to think who's not in there, who's not in the roster already, because
It's like today, all the
Tingle.
rumours were going off about Master Chief, right? All the rumours are going off.
Oh,
And I was like, it ain't going to be Master Chief, but you live in hope. But we haven't
That would
talked
be
about
awesome.
Metroid, right?
Metroid, go on. I'm a big Metroid fan. Just a bit of a fun fact. Metroid on GameCube. Which one was it? Oh my
So
god!
you're a Prime boy,
Yeah.
basically.
So Metroid Prime was the first time I remember saying, "Oh my god, look at these graphics." That was the first time I remember saying, "Oh my god, look at these graphics that we're seeing now." And
When I think of that game, I think of the reflection of Samus's eyes in the helmet when you're in the elevator and lights shine on you. Yeah, just
everything. But take it away, boys. I'm not. That's the only Metroid that I played, and the ones that were on the handhelds.
But
But
before I get really excited, you had some misgivings, Tom. So go on.
Well, I like Metroid. I mean, I really liked Axiom Verge, which was a few years ago, and that's like a kind of like very similar game. My main This game looks like, I mean, I haven't read the press releases or anything, so I don't know exactly other than what was in the trailer. But it looks like you're being hunted by robot thing, I guess it looks
Yeah.
like, and that's hunting Samus down during it. I have a big problem with games where you're being hunted. Like, it puts me off the Resident Evil games, the last like 2 and 3. I don't like that mechanic where it's like something is after you all the time. I find it unnecessarily stressful.
So to
So
speak
I
to
don't know how
that
that's going to work.
quickly,
Maybe it's not going to be quite the same as that.
This is a direct sequel to Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. So for Dorrani, for your benefit, if you're like a Prime fan, Metroid is
Yeah.
basically two different series. There's 3D Metroid and there's 2D Metroid. And so the 2D Metroid goes Metroid on the NES, Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, the GBA game Metroid Fusion, and now this. So this is a fifth game that's been long in the making. And then obviously they're making Metroid Prime 4 as well, which is a fourth game in that series. But yeah, Metroid Fusion, which this is a direct sequel to, had a stalker enemy that was really the core of the game, the SAS virus that was a living virus that was sort of in one of the Samus suits. And this time it's robots, right? And I'm be interesting, but I'm just excited to see, 2D Metroid getting another chance. They're continuing that story. I noticed in the press release they're calling it the conclusion to the 5-part saga. I feel like every time they make a new 2D Metroid, the saga gets one part longer. Every part is the final part. But I do think, it looks a lot like the 3DS remake of Samus Returns, which is the second 2D Metroid game. It looks like it's taken a lot of cues from that. Looks like there's a bit of melee action in there. I think it looks good, and it's like I say, it's exciting for both sides of Metroid to get a stab. Metroid's one of those series like Star Fox where you never truly know if you're guaranteed another one or if that's it forever. Or FZero, right? Like,
when was the last FZero game?
GameCube.
Yep. Sorry, my mum. My mum.
She doesn't like Metroid. She sounded angry.
Sorry, that just threw me off completely. The last Star Fox and FZero was.
So the last Star Fox was
A while ago.
was on the Wii U, and that was made by Platinum Games, and it was like 50% a really good game and 50% a really shit game.
Oh no!
And the last FZero was genuinely one of the best games of its generation, but that was all the way back on GameCube. So. I don't know. There just doesn't seem to be much of a desire to make that. The last F-Zero was made by Sega as well. Like, they made an arcade game and they made a GameCube game, and there was a really sick feature where you could take your save data from the GameCube version, and there was a GameCube memory card slot on the arcade machine, so you could plug your GameCube memory card into the arcade machine, which is rad.
Something only you would know as well.
yeah. But I think I'm excited for Metroid. I think we all want to see Prime 4. I do think Metroid looks a bit graphically basic, even by
Weak.
Switch standards.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like
it
I
was almost
was thinking that like it's a game where I expected. I know Switch has got limitations. It's a handheld at heart still, but this is a 2D game. I thought they would push it a bit more. Like you say, it doesn't look that graphically different to the 3DS game. Obviously, it runs at a high resolution. In fact, I think the 3DS game looks more pleasing. The color scheme and stuff I think looks better of the 3DS game. But I mean, maybe like we only saw it in a stream. Maybe it holds up better on the actual screen of the Switch.
Yeah, but I'm excited for that. And then we've got WarioWare. I love WarioWare. I'm slightly apprehensive about this because they've added in this weird feature where it looks a bit platformy almost, and you're playing as the characters. And WarioWare, for my money, was fine as it was. But also, they have never let me down so far in terms of making really fun minigame collections. So,
How many mini games are in there in
like
WarioWare?
hundreds, but they're over 100. They said, but they are all very, very. I don't know. Did they say over 100? I don't know. I don't see that in the press release. Don't take my word for that 100%. But in the previous games, it has been well over 100, and it's been more like it's been more like. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, every mini game is like a couple of seconds long, really.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different to a normal minigame collection.
It's not a full price game, is it? Because that would be rough.
I don't know. It's like I said at the beginning. I like WarioWare, and I like the 3DS one a lot, which was like the collection. Was it like the celebration one? I can't remember what it was, but it had loads and loads of stuff from the past in it as well.
Yeah.
And I've liked it throughout. All the games have been good fun. It's just not a game I ever buy at like on release. I'll get it like a couple of months later when it's dropped, and it's great fun. And like I think like I'll play it with my son. It's got 2-player in this one, hasn't it? Hopefully that works well.
I will say
but it's just
the typical, as far as value goes, the typical WarioWare on consoles has always released at a little bit less than full price, but the handheld ones have always typically released at standard handheld price, which was always a bit cheaper anyway.
Ooh.
So it'll be interesting to see where this falls now it's on the Switch, which is both.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to keep the list going?
Well, there's that's
so,
that.
Monster Hunter
I'm saving
Stories.
Zelda for last, right? But
yeah,
there's Monster
Just to quickly
Stories.
fly through. Monster Hunter Stories. Fatal Frame spoke about. Doom and Tony Hawk's is coming over from the other platforms. Mario Rabbids 2 Spark of Hope.
Well, that was at Ubisoft yesterday. It looks good. Yeah.
To be honest, I think that is it.
Well, there's the
Life is
Mario Party,
Strange.
which you mentioned. And then there's the Zelda stuff, right? So Skyward Sword out next month.
Yeah.
In my opinion, probably the worst Zelda game. Anybody who scored that game a 10 originally needs their head checking. But hopefully the changes improve it, I guess. Then you got that little Game and Watch thing. They did one of those for Mario. I bought one of those like a mug, and I've never even taken it out of the packet. I will buy this one like a mug. I really like that it's got Link's Awakening in it, though. However, I just want to say, Nintendo, 2 things. One, I can't believe that thing's got a color screen, and you've only put in the original black and white version of Link's Awakening and not the DX Game Boy Color version. You are cheap. And second, there were 2 actual Game & Watch Zelda games. They weren't very complicated, but I can't believe they haven't put a version of those in there, and instead they've put in this weird sprite swap of a sprite swap of another Game & Watch game where they've just put Link in it and Octoroks. But I'm like, why didn't you put the actual Zelda Game & Watch games in there? Anyway.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
the Mr. Game & Watch character, right? So we're going to get to it. That's the Mr. Game & Watch character from Smash, or not from Smash, but obviously, is that the one you were... Yeah.
So usually you would play as him, but they've replaced him with a sprite swap of Link, and I get it, fine, that's cute. But also, for God's sake, there were 2 actual Game & Watch Zelda games. Just recreate those and put them in there. But I guess, I'm sure that's a limited release, so they don't want to make that much effort.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Johnny. You mentioned about that Game & Watch character from Smash. That is I was watching the whole thing with my son, like I said, and all the way through the whole trailer, he goes, "I know that character. I know that dragon. I know that dinosaur thing, and it's all because he's played Smash a lot, like he
Yeah.
loves it, so he knows all these characters, but he's just never seen any of the games. So he's coming
Yeah.
at it from completely different direction to what a lot
That's
of people
amazing,
are.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're just going to correct this before people start roasting me in the comments. I didn't say Mr. Game & Watch from Smash. I said, is that the...
Well, Mr. Game,
Fine.
listen, Mr. Game & Watch is from Smash, but he's also from his own games. Mario
Yes.
is also from Smash, technically.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Yeah, let's get to Breath of the Wild 2. Looks amazing. Go ahead and let's speak about Breath of the Wild 2. They didn't show much of it, but there was a lot of new abilities in there. I saw a lot of new abilities to the sky. We're going to the skies as well.
I think the thing that's interesting as a Zelda fan is it looks like this game is doing Wind Waker, but almost in reverse. By which I mean, in Wind Waker, obviously, you had the oceans had flooded Hyrule, and you had the tops of all the Hylian mountains that formed the islands of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a little bit where you could go under, and you could see a little bit of the original Hyrule, and that was like the most exciting thing as an Ocarina of Time fan in that game, because you'd be like, imagine if you could go over there, and then 10 years later people did go over there, action replay, and it looked terrible, and you were like, oh. But anyway, it's sort of like I when you look at the footage, I'm pretty sure I've only watched the trailer 3 times, which is quite a lot considering the broadcast only just finished.
Yeah.
But when you look down from the sky sections, it's clear that beneath you can recognize landmarks. Beneath it is the actual original Breath of the Wild map.
Okay.
So it looks like that. Well, this is the question. Is that just a skybox or a ground box, I guess you'd call it? Or is that actually still part of the world? Are you going back and forth between the ground and the sky? Which again would be similar to Skyward Sword, which also has that exact thing of ground, sky, ground, sky. But then also when you're in the sky, the way it's structured, where there's lots of different floating islands, feels very Wind Waker. And so I think it's really interesting, like how this is going to mesh together. But I think the most exciting thing for me is, with how critically acclaimed Breath of the Wild was, it would have been very easy for them to just basically make the same game again and do it on a different map. But looking at how different this appears to be, thematically at least, I look at this and I'm like, this could very well be the Majora's Mask to Breath of the Wild's Ocarina of Time. And that is really exciting. And that's my point.
Tom?
Yeah, Dorrani, do you know Link from the Smash Brothers games?
So this is going to be the running joke of my stay here at VG247, is it?
He got a spin-off. He got a spin-off game, Breath of the Wild. But yeah, no, I think this looks great. I think for me, like, I like Nintendo, but I like Nintendo when they're being like big budget Nintendo more. Like, I know a lot of people appreciate all the I'm going to offend people here. Well, the smaller games like Advance Wars clearly is not huge budget, but people love it, right? That's great. I'm happy for them. But I prefer the big Nintendo stuff. I love the Mario game, like the 3D Marios, the big 3D Zeldas. Like, I'm really looking forward to Metroid Prime, and this looks great. Like, for me, it looked like this came on. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the kind of stuff I want on the Switch. Proper, big, high budget, huge RPG, and it just looks great. Like, some of the new sort of abilities look really cool. There was that one where he kind of just melted through a platform or something, which was a bit.
Yeah,
I didn't really understand what's going on, but it looked cool. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm interested to see, like, when you actually play, because in the trailer, obviously they're going to highlight some of the new stuff, like how similar it is going to feel to Breath of the Wild. Like, Breath of the Wild had a ton of climbing and stuff in it. Is that still going to be a part of this? Because, like, people love that part of it. How, like, is the world, like, they claim it was like the biggest world they've made yet, or something along those lines?
It was definitely the biggest world they've ever made. Definitely.
Yeah. To be honest with Zelda and me, I'm not the biggest Zelda fan. I wasn't the biggest Zelda fan. Breath of the Wild was probably the one I took note of the previous ones. It just wasn't on my radar at the time. But Breath of the Wild, the first one, was amazing. One thing I I like is that even to this day, there's still videos of like, here's 10 things that in Breath of the Wild that you didn't know, and the attention to detail that they've put into this game or into that game was incredible. So when I'm seeing people call to say, oh, it's not coming out until next year, or 2 years, saying this last year when we first, was it last year we first saw it, or 2 years ago? 2 years ago?
I think it
Two
was 2
years,
years
2 years
ago.
ago, yeah.
I
Yeah,
think in
yeah.
real terms, if we hadn't had the pandemic, there's a strong chance we would have got this game this year.
Yeah,
I think, to be honest, because Nintendo very rarely announces the game and then doesn't say anything for 2 years.
yeah. But I say that to say, they can take their time. They can take their time with this one. It would be a shame for it to release and it not to excel past its the first version. I'm excited for it. The abilities look awesome, and I think it's hard. It's like, how much can they add before they kind of spoil the game, you know? So it looks like they've just added the right amount off the
Well,
5 seconds.
The thing about Zelda is, though, they're not afraid to take away either. That's the beauty of it. So hopefully, they will remove enough that you get the sort of
Fresh
that you
experience.
get the fresh experience. That's the whole thing about Majora's Mask, right? It would have been very easy for them to just make an expansion pack for Ocarina of Time almost, but instead they stripped away huge chunks of what made Ocarina of Time and replaced stuff. And I think that will probably be the case here. But I think the big question is, like I say, is that ground overworld still playable? Because, for instance, if it's all in the sky, you don't need horses. So that's something you could strip away from Breath of the Wild. But if you can still fly down to the ground,
you could have
then
a Pegasus.
Well, they have Sky. In Skyward Sword, they're called Loftwing, so they could bring those back, I guess. But yeah.
It's quite funny. It's quite funny how, obviously, with the stuff in the sky, like Immortals: Phoenix Rising from Ubisoft was seen as a copy of Breath of the Wild, and it's a lot of that game is set like flying around in sky, like sky locations and stuff. And now we've got Breath of the Wild 2, which is copying Immortals: Phoenix Rising. How do you like that, Nintendo fans?
The other thing I thought, though, Nintendo is not afraid to admit they always look at the biggest games. And when I saw that first shot of Link flying towards the ground, I was like, they played Fortnite. That's honestly the first thing I thought. That was like, Miyamoto and Aonuma have played some Fortnite and gone, it is a really cool sensation when you're just falling. And it wouldn't even surprise me if this whole game came from that thought.
Maybe. I did actually say, I was on Discord with my friend watching the conference. I said, where we dropping, boys, when when I did see that bit. So I think it was a universal thought. Is there any more thoughts on Breath of the Wild 2? I feel like there's not enough for me to be going excited or just be excited. I've nothing to be excited about.
I think it's just a game that I think highlights is one of the reasons why I think next year is going to be. We say that for Microsoft as well, I think, but next year could be huge for Nintendo fans. Like,
it's the year.
You think about, we know about Breath of the Wild 2, Splatoon 3, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Oh, yes.
Potentially, like, if you think back to like Odyssey came out just after, in the same year as Breath of the Wild, right? So potentially we could get the next, maybe Mario, who knows what the next game is from that team, could be next year as well. And that would be like 3 huge games for Switch, maybe also a Switch Pro if that happens next year, this year, who knows. So I think this presentation, there's a lot of stuff there, and I think they please a lot of people. I think for me, the key stuff is, like, for my interest anyway, is coming next year. But that's fine. Like, I'm happy with that. I don't have to enjoy everything they put out, but I just know they have got stuff coming, which is good enough.
Most definitely. Alex, any closing thoughts?
I just think they got out there and they did what they needed to do. And I think the thing is, unlike with Microsoft, where you don't really, or Sony, where you don't really fully know what the future is going to hold in terms of the rest of this year for broadcasts or whatever, the one nice thing is with Nintendo, you are pretty much guaranteed directs at a certain interval. And that means we should get another one before the end of the year, really. Unless unless they go on a mad hiatus again like they did before. But I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that was just because of various external circumstances. So this is the thing. Maybe we'll see some of those hot games for next year before the end of the year. Maybe we'll see Metroid Prime or a new Mario or Donkey Kong from the Odyssey team. But for now, I think they did exactly what they needed to do, and genuinely the best possible way to cap off E3.
Most definitely. It's weird to think that E3 is just finished already. I said this last time we spoke about a conference is when's PlayStation just going to say, oh yeah, we're actually going to do our state of play now. Yeah, it was nice. I like the style of just back-to-back games. Just keep showing us more games from Nintendo. That has been Dorrani, Tom, and Alex from VG247. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We are going to have a write-up on the website, so make sure you go there for some other thoughts. And that is us. Peace out, everyone.
Later.
See ya.